Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Product Ops HQ Meetup. Thank you for joining us. My name is Josh Berman. I'm head of product marketing at Dragonboat, and I'll be your MC for today's session. Along with me, I have Alyssa Voss from the Dragonboat team, and she'll be assisting us on chat if you have any questions. In addition, be on the lookout for some of the great resources and content that Alyssa will be sharing with you as we progress through today's session. For those of you that are new to the Product Ops HQ Meetup, I'd like to share a warm welcome. For context, Dragon Boat's Product Ops HQ Meetup was created to serve the needs of the growing product operations community to meet, share ideas, learn, and grow. And we do this by hosting regular virtual meetups covering a wide array of topics like the one you'll see today. We also do this by providing networking opportunities to meet like-minded folks in the field. And one such example of this is the virtual space we provide on Slack, where you can ask questions and tap into the communal knowledge of product ops pros like yourselves. So if you're not there yet, we encourage you to join us there today. So what I love about this community is how global we become. And it's kind of a tradition as part of these meetups to ask you all to chime in on chat and share where in the world you're located. Product ops is gaining popularity and influence, and it truly knows no bounds. So I encourage you all to chime in on chat right now and share where in the world you're located. Now, while everybody's saying hi, I want to make a few notes about today's session. As always, this session is being recorded, and you'll receive access to the recording via email after the event. Our format for today's session is that we'll be presenting and then doing a Q&A session to conclude the event. Now, if you have any questions at any point throughout, we encourage you to share them on chat, and we'll either answer them right in the flow of the event, or we'll follow up during our Q&A session to answer them for you. Now, the only ask that I have for you all today is that you mute your mics when we have our presenter talking. Can get a little bit noisy and chatter there, so please do respect that. All right, so let's move on over. So before we dive into today's topic, I'd like to acknowledge that it would not be possible without Dragonboat. Dragonboat is the #1 product operations platform that enables product leaders to maximize business impact through effective product and portfolio management. It provides a single platform to manage your entire product operating model. So I encourage you to check us out at dragonboat.io. Okay, so now to our main event. Today's session, Product Decision Making for Revenue Impact, will be led by Keoki Andrus. With a product career spanning over 30 years, Keoki excels in creating integrated product strategies and scalable roadmaps. He has a strong track record of building product ROI through go-to-market alignment and product leader development, helping companies achieve a competitive edge. Keoki, I'll hand it over to you for a brief introduction and to kick us off.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. It is great to virtually be with you. You know, this question of product ops is kind of this emerging thing. And it is an interesting problem because it's like, what is it? And when I talk to people, not everybody's even aligned on what it is, but we're all in this role or we're working with it. And I kind of see product ops as having a couple different roles. One is helping with product practice to help normalize it, because we need to be able to scale it and make it work, you know, from person to person. And then what does product practice contain? Well, it contains like setting up our strategies, making our decisions, and then how do we execute it? And product operations kind of does all of that. And what is the most important part? Or at least it supports all of that. What is the most important part? Well, it's the part that you're having the biggest trouble with in your organization right now. Today, I'm going to mainly focus on that first part of, okay, how do you make good product decisions? And we're not going to talk so much about, okay, how do you support that decision-making? How do you support implementation, et cetera? It's like, okay, how do you do the decision-making? To start off, I'm going to tell a little bit of a story of something from my own experience that just kind of illustrates how difficult the product management challenge is and what we need to, how we can approach it, because I want to give us some context. And I know that I will say some things today that sound really written in stone or very like, this is the way it is. And I know that there's exceptions to everything. But instead of being all mamby-pamby and dancing around things, I'm just going to say things. And if you know that it's obviously stupid for some reason in some ways, you can bring it up and we can discuss it, or you can just go, yeah, Keoki's just not talking about that edge case. And then also, as we're going along here, please feel free to throw in questions in the chat. We don't have to wait for Q&A at the end. We can take things real time and we'll just roll with it. Okay, so to my story. In 2016, actually, I'm not jumping to that slide yet. Thanks. In 2016, I was invited to lead a product for a SaaS company that had been really going through a rough time. For 2 years, they had not shipped anything material. And this was because they had a leader who kind of was really charismatic, but was really kind of creating a lot of churn. And so morale was terrible. The first month I spent there, going around and meeting people, I felt like a therapist. And the win rate, the pipeline was good, but the win rate was 12%. And that's horrible. And there's a lot of finger pointing between the functional groups. And when I walked over into the sales department, the direct sales department, it was like a morgue. I mean, people were slumped over their desks. And I was just like all this negative energy. And on top of that, because of all the churn that had been happening in the technology, there were frequent outages, which of course that churn led to the other type of churn, which is, losing business. So that's what I walked into. That was really a bad situation. And I hope that for some of you, I actually hope not, that for some of you that resonates. I hope you're not experiencing that, but these are the common sorts of problems that we face. More recently, we're facing problems of money used to be free. And let's spend to grow as quick as we can. And now money's not that free and business is tight. And how do you deal with that? So I just wanted to tell you real quickly what we ended up doing was we said, okay, we're going to define something that can make an impact really fast that we can ship, because we got to get morale up and we got to show that we can do something. Oh, and I didn't mention this. One other thing is that we had a growth market we wanted to go into, which was big customers. And we had been spending millions of dollars for years to build a pipeline. And our win rate and we had a big pipeline, but our win rate was a goose egg, 0%. We had no big customers. We had not won one deal, even though we kept getting them all the way through bid, through quote, and then we'd lose. So we decided we're going to ship something quick, start to prove that we can do something. Then I don't know if any of you know this, but it turns out that humans really respond to smiles and laughter. And effectively, when you smile or see a smile or you laugh, it raises your effective IQ about 1 standard deviation. So if you're a smart person, it makes you a really smart person. And if you're a really smart person, for about 15 minutes, you're a genius. And if you're just kind of an average person, you turn into a smart person. Well, it turns out that when people are smarter, they do better work. And the other thing is when people feel crummy, however you're feeling, other people get it, right? And so our sales force, I was like, what do? I gotta help this. So every day, 4 times a day, I would get up from my desk and I would walk through sales. And I would just smile at them, talk to them, and get them to laugh. And then I would leave. And then I started giving functional groups a voice. And then also we built choice models, which is something you're probably not familiar with, but we built choice models for both our core customers and our growth segments to figure out where's the gaps, what's the reasons why we're not able to close the deals. We built our first roadmaps. We implemented processes to start getting actual on-time deliveries, and we invested in reliability. So what do you think happened? from all that? Well, within 2 months, even though we hadn't shipped hardly anything, our win rate increased 50%. And our retention started climbing. Eventually, we became the leader in reliability for our industry. And the thing I was most excited about is I went into the exec team and I told them, we are going to start winning these deals. And they all laughed at me. I mean, they didn't really laugh, but I mean, they looked at me like, yeah, sure, Keoki. But we actually started winning those deals, and those deals became so common that we stopped talking about them because they just became part of our business. And then, of course, ultimately, 16 months later, we were able to successfully sell the business and have a liquidity event. And so all of this really had to do with what we did from a product ops perspective and how we made decisions. Where did we place our bets? So let's move on to the next slide now. And once again, please feel free to jump in and ask questions. But here we are. So what is our job? What is the core job that we have to do? And really what we do is we decide what to build and get it built. And then I say successfully ship it to maximize ROI. And this is a part of our job in product that we forget about a lot. We really focus, I see us focus all the time on what is our process for building a roadmap and working with engineering to get it built. And the fact is if we build something and the market doesn't know about it, how much is that worth? I like to say, use this expression, a feature that no one knows about does not exist. And so we also have this job to make sure that it maximizes ROI. And there's 3 core pieces to this job. 1, we succeed if we improve win rate. 2, we succeed if we grow and retain our customers. And 3, we succeed if we're operationally excellent. And what does that mean? That is like, okay, if we can deliver faster, like if we increase our development velocity, then now we can build more cool stuff faster. Great. That's going to increase our ROI. If we're more reliable, that's going to help us with growing and retaining. And then, ultimately it's about profitability. Is our MongoDB license, are our MongoDB licenses killing us? Are they just killing us in terms of their expenses? And is there something we can do about driving that down, because that will drive bottom line up? So these are the 3 things that we do. That's it. That's all we care about. But how do we do that? And do we actually do it effectively? Let's go to our next slide. So you see this right here. It says everybody thinks they're Kevin Costner. For a moment, I'd like you to think about, how do we actually make product decisions? And I'm going to ask you to just throw in the chat, what's the main ways that you've observed that we make product decisions about how we're going to deploy our resources? Go ahead and throw those in. I'd like to see what you guys are thinking. And I love that this is an international group.
Hey,
Okay, I got
Keoki,
Roger.
I'll help you out on chat there. So the question for everybody was, how do you make product decisions in your own right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Sorry, and I think I cut you off there. Were you going to read?
Yeah, I was just going through these. I love these. Everyone thinks they have the key to success, and everybody knows, right? They know. I know what to do. Jacob says customer feedback. Maria has a very structured approach, percentage-based resource allocations and prioritization matrix. I'm not even sure exactly what that is, but I love it. Let's see. Hippo, highest paid person online. Okay, yes. What is profitable? Sometimes it's like, well, which customer is screaming the loudest, or maybe what rep is screaming the loudest. Anything else you guys want to throw out there? I find that product people generally feel pretty confident about knowing what they think they should do. I know. And I kind of hate Kevin Costner because he filled our minds with these visions of sugar plums and corn stalks of like, it's totally stupid to knock down your cornfield and build a baseball diamond, but if you build it, they will come. And I feel like that for your average product person, that's kind of their attitude. Is like, I know, if we just build it, they will come, and they people will love it. And of course, there's lots of reasons why we end up making these decisions. Several of them we hit here. Sometimes it's the executive offsite. The executives are concerned about our win rate or our growth or our retention or something else, and they discuss it in an offsite, and then they come back and say, "We have the answer." And I've been an executive long enough to be able to make fun of executives without malice, and that creates all its own problems as well. One of the big things that we do is we over-index on the user and under-index on the buyer. And what I mean by that is, in today's world, we have so much data about users. We can track what they're doing. We can track where they're having trouble. And the documentation out there by companies like Google and Amazon, et cetera, talks about how important this is. And we've been indoctrinated to believe that if we just do what will make users' lives better, we will improve win rate, decrease churn, and will improve operational excellence. Well, sometimes that's true. Sometimes it's not. If your user is the buyer, then that's generally true. But if your user is not the buyer, and that's the case for the majority of products, then it becomes much tougher, because what the buyer wants and what motivates them and what motivates the user, they overlap, but they're not necessarily the same. But it's easy to figure out what's going on with users, but hard to figure out what's going on with buyers. So that's one thing that makes it hard for us. The other thing that swallows us up is we get all these insights from customers, and they're asking us questions and saying, "I hate this." And we go, hate is a strong emotion. If I fix that, they will love us. Is that true? Is it true that if you remove everything that customers hate, they will love you? What do y'all think? Yes or no? Love is not the absence of hate. And it's kind of like, we have Sherlock Holmes, remember him? And he was like, when we remove everything that is false, if we remove everything that's false, all we'll be left with is the truth. Like, we naturally are inclined to kind of believe that if we remove everything that is bad, all we'll be left with is love and good. But it doesn't work out that way, but we get sucked into it. So this sucks us into unremarkable bits and bots, because we get all this input from customers, and we may even have other customers and our CSMs and things like that saying, yeah, that's what they hate, or that's what, is the problem. And we think if we just fix that, we will now drive end results. But it seldom does. And it seldom does for two reasons. One, even if you have a customer who's unhappy and you fix something and make a little teeny change, do they discover it? Do they find out about it? And does it actually make them happy? It doesn't. And they seldom find out about it, because our marketing partners, when we make one little change to a UX in some box somewhere in our product, is marketing going to work really hard to make sure that sales is completely enabled and knows about that, and all the CSMs know about it, and and every customer knows about it? No, it's too big of a lift. And so what happens is you invest all this money responding to all your customer insights, but it doesn't actually change anything. But you get lots of positive feedback, because somebody will discover it and say thank you, and they'll clap like sills. But people going art doesn't actually change the business. And then often we don't have linkage to our core goals, and I say, or messages. Our marketing department can only afford so many messages. And if we keep just building stuff like it's a Frankenstein product, the customer won't find out about it. Sales won't integrate it into the way they work. And it's even harder when you don't have core goals. Thank you, Dave. That is true. But today we're not going to talk about core goals. So success is often unknowable. And there's two parts to our decision making I want to point out here. The first is, what do we build? Where are we going to deploy? And when you've been involved, I'm sure you've seen this, that we come up with plans, we invest, and then we deploy, and we don't know, did it work? And if we don't know if it worked, did it work? And the probability is that it partially worked and some of it didn't work. But we don't know because we don't have any visibility on those core objectives. I mean, on those core jobs. And if it's not working exactly right and you don't know it, can you pivot to try to make it work better? And the answer, of course, is no, you can't. So this gives us our challenge is we're making decisions all over the place. We don't have a standard way that we're measuring or just defining how we are building our products. And we don't know if they're succeeding, even though we have more data now than we ever had before. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is our challenge. I feel stupid and I hate reading slides, but I'm going to read this one. How do we clearly and measurably improve tomorrow's business results from today's product investments? Have you ever had engineering come at you and say, we're doing all this stuff, but what difference is it making? We want to have impact. I hear that from engineering a lot. Does anybody else? And I'm throwing every 5 minutes from Graham Reed. I'm constantly hearing that. Well, when you start to have business results, when you can actually show that you're having impact, it makes a big difference on the rest of the organization. I told you about my little experience when I worked at that SaaS company, 8 years ago. And when the win rate started climbing, the alignment with engineering was supreme. And even my alignment with sales, which they can be really tough. And after a couple of years, it was really hard for me to get feedback and ideas because everybody's just like, I go to them and I'd say, okay, let's come up with your top 5 list. What is it you're looking for? What do you think will make a difference? And they would just say, I have ideas, but I don't want to say anything. I just want you to keep doing whatever you're doing. Now, then I'd have to dig harder because I still wanted their input. But how do you get to that point? All right, let's go to the next slide. And just a reminder, you are welcome to dive in and ask questions. Okay, so these are our 3 jobs. They're also our 3 core decision-making filters. So I want to talk about how you do that. Now, you may have, everybody's organized differently. But if you have ideas and people are putting forward plans, either your big ones, sometimes your big ones may not say our goal is to improve win rate. But even if you have big initiatives or big goals, they're either designed to improve win rate, grow, retain, or operational excellence. That's all that anything's going to be about. You just may have to dig at it. So when you are actually considering an investment, run it through these filters, ask, and be kind of tough. I'm a friendly guy, but I am kind of relentless. And you can be relentless and you can create processes that make yourselves, your business scalably relentless to go, okay, we want to make this investment. Will it improve win rate? And the first thing you'll get back is, it's too small to do that. We don't know. but it's really important, and it will, but people will tell you it will improve our closing. And if you run it by sales, they will say one word. I've heard this word 5,000 times. If I just run it by them and say, if we did X, how would that impact sales? And then they would say the words, and I wonder if any of you can even get this word in your mouth. That would be, does anybody know what the word is? Type it in the chat if you know what the word is. That would be huge. They always say that would be huge, as though like this is going to change the world. And then I ask them the next question, which is, oh, it would be huge. Great. Would you be willing to increase your quota if I build it? And what do you think the percentage of times that they say, yes, I'm willing to increase my quota in order to get that? 0, right? I've actually had it happen a few times where they're like, no, I would actually take on more quota. So you can't actually tell if things will impact rate just by talking to people and having them tell you how awesome it is. The next one is grow and retain. It's like, well, will this improve our churn numbers, our NER? Will it actually help it? And if so, why? How? And push hard. You'll hear a lot from CSMs, just like with our salespeople. Our CSMs will be telling, we got to do this. It's absolutely critical. Have you ever built a feature, a major feature, because it was necessary to keep a customer? I bet you have. Everybody's done it. What happens is that, have you ever noticed what happens to your product when you start getting into that mode where you're just building what customers ask? I call this the Frankenstein product mode. You just it starts growing in this almost cancerous way as yes, jungle of features. Thanks, Mo. It starts just growing in all this way. And how cohesive for you marketing types, how easy is that to communicate to the market? And to be able to say, wow, we did all these things. And how easy is it to say, look at our vision? It feels so easy to focus on that because it's like, this is a specific problem. But is your job to win specific deals or to win markets? When your company is very small and you're in bootstrap mode, sometimes winning specific deals is exactly what you have to do. But generally, by the time there's product ops around, you're trying to figure out how to scale and you're trying to figure out how to win markets. The last one is operational excellence. And this is the one that causes us the most trouble because it gets into the land of tech debt. Have you ever been asked or had it proposed to you that we need to just dedicate 1 day a week or 15% of our resources or 30% of our resources or 10% of our time to tech debt? Has anybody ever had that one? I have heard it every place I've ever gone, and it sounds rational. It sounds like, well, yeah, we have to do that because tech debt slows us down. It makes things hard. But I'm fighting against that. I want you to fight against it. And here is your argument. Yes, there is tech debt. And yes, tech debt can be a bad thing. But if we remove all the tech debt in our product, will we improve the win rate? Probably not. Will we improve growth and retention? Maybe a little. Okay, so what am I getting for getting rid of all that tech debt? Well, the answer will be, well, the product will be more reliable. The product will we'll be able to develop so much faster. Because we have to do all this working around our tech debt, and we can't implement our microservices architecture in the way we want to because of the tech debt, and blah, 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 blah. Are those all good arguments? I don't know. Here's what I do know, because I started life as an engineer, is that your code is a beauty contest. And when your code is reviewed and other people are working with your stuff and it has problems, you are personally embarrassed. And engineers love efficiency. And when you're dealing with a piece of code that every month when we're, every time we do a build, I have to spend 5 minutes and do this thing that I could automate, and it drives me nuts. You want to fix that. You're embarrassed. Are those reasons why we should take our entire organization offline for a quarter to fix that? Maybe, maybe not. The fact is that I love fixing tech debt. I love fixing tech debt because it accomplishes something that we really care about, and the return on investment is going to be awesome. So if the tech debt, like I had one person in product ops I was working with a couple months ago, and they had a situation where every month they had to do all these reports for customers on their utilization. And they could refactor the way they ran those reports and save one dev week's time every month by refactoring that. And it would take 3 dev weeks of work to get it done. So they're like, well, in 3 months, that means we get all of our time back. And that means that team can work on something else every week. I mean, for an entire week, every month. Well, that's kind of cool. I don't know if that's compelling or not based off the other things we could have done with their time, but it was pretty close. A 3-month turnaround to know I'm going to get something out of it. Okay, that was a good decision. But tech debt generally is one of these things that can just be a bottomless pit. And so my answer to anybody who says we should spend 10% of our time on tech debt is no. This is how much time you get for tech debt. You get 0% of the time for tech debt. If there is something we get that is so compelling that fixing and investing in the tech debt will solve that, be worth that, you've got my ears. And I have invested loads in tech debt. So it's not that I'm against it. I just want a business case. Everything has to have a business case. And most tech debt investments are like the bits and bots we were talking about in the previous slide, of adding little features and checkboxes and little things that make somebody happy but don't move the needle. So what do you invest in operational excellence? Well, you know what? If you can spend 3 weeks and knock down our MongoDB costs by 50%, you got my attention at this point, because we're trying to drive down costs every way we can to drive down our burn rate. So how do we improve reliability? Well, reliability, perhaps I might be willing to invest in some tech debt on that. Or I might be willing to invest in re-architecture so that we can support microservices better, so that we can, because we're headed towards the wall in terms of our scaling. That's fine, because that's our plan. So I've spent too much time on this, but it's a really passionate subject for me. And I see people walk into this tech debt trap over and over again. And just like we talked about Sherlock Holmes, removing tech debt, often people will talk about risk. It's like, well, there's these risks. Well, when you remove all risk from a business or a product or whatever it is you're working on, is the only thing left success? And the funny thing is when you remove all risk, you also remove all probability of success. Because by the time all risk is gone, somebody else has already stepped in and won the market. Okay, click away there. All right, so you've made these, you've really pushed hard. You've built good operating mechanisms to really grind on, prove it to me before we invest that this will have an impact. Prove it to me that it will make it more profitable. Okay, so you've built that, but remember we talked earlier about this need to be able to pivot, to be able to see how you're doing? It is almost impossible for any sort of initiative to be able to say, hey, look at how that impact our win rate. Because your competitors are moving at the same time. There's so many factors, and you've got 100 engineers working on different things. Which thing impacted win rate, which didn't? Who knows? But you still need to be able to know, is it improving things? So you have these lagging indicators like actual win rate and maybe our volume, maybe percent of deals that have this new, maybe you built a new add-on and what percentage of deals have this add-on. Those are great, but they're too slow. So the big thing you can do in product ops is as you work with your product managers to help them as they make decisions and you help them build this mindset of the 3 jobs, then as they define things, everything they define that they're going to invest in, you add leading KPIs and you make it part of the initiative. So looking at win rate here, for the most simple one is what percentage of the reps actually know it and are fluent in it. And if that number is low, guess what's going to happen to your win rate? You will have no impact. And that one seems so obvious, but it is pulling teeth to get reps to change how they pitch, how they think about the product. Once they kind of get in mode where it's like, this is my groove, this is how I do my thing. And then you come and say, we got something new. It's funny because they will beat the crud out of you saying, I need something new. But then trying to get them to change how they talk about what you got is almost impossible. It makes me crazy. I don't know if it's ever made any of you crazy. You can also look at things like, okay, how much is there, is it being mentioned? How much are partners referring it? Are we getting clicks on it? Are we getting trials on it? Are we getting requests for information? Is the pipeline around that growing? These are just examples. In product ops, if you can get really good at thinking about identifying what leading indicators could prove whether or not this initiative is being successful, you will add tons of value. Because I've been working with product managers for decades, and they always stumble on this one. What they want to do is wave their hand and say, yes, this is a key problem in sales. You could look in Salesforce and you could see the number of the number of dollars being quoted. The product manager will always say, this is a key problem. And so we have to do it. But then it falls to pieces afterwards and they don't know if it was successful. If you can get really great at helping them see the leading indicators and build it into their plan and then feed that information back to them, you will change your business. Because they will start to see it. They will start bringing it back to their teams and saying, we shipped this thing a month ago. We're seeing some positive signs. We're seeing some negative signs. What do we do to change and make sure this initiative we already invested in is successful instead of running off to the next one? The other part is retention. You can do the same thing. If it's like, well, this is really about retention or growth, you can have those leading and lagging indicators too and help walk people through this. Same thing happens in operations excellence. You can start tracking development NPS. We track our customers' NPS. Well, how happy are our developers? Happy developers write much code, and it is good code. And there's going to be something called a J curve. A J curve is this expression from investing in private equity, where you invest in this new opportunity and the investment itself actually decreases the value of your investment. I guess I should J this way. And then once the new operations take, it's like the hockey curve thing. And after it takes effect, then it really starts taking off. And your development partners, when you are implementing real true operational excellence things, at first they're going to be frustrated because you're not investing in what they want to invest in. But then when they see their MongoDB costs going down and seeing that it's making an impact, they're going to be happy. So going back to that first experience, we implemented this very strong process, which we don't have time to discuss today, that ensures that 90% of the time you ship on time, which sounds crazy. But at first, engineering was like, because there's all this fear about committing. So, but we worked through it with our engineers. And after a few years, they shipped 95% on time. They called their shot, and it was aggressive, and they hit it. And they walked around like they were the best engineering organization. This is a couple hundred engineers in the world. They're just like, everybody else can't hit their dates. We nail them all the time. And they were so proud. And so their pride of being part of that organization and how they partner with product is kind of legend. And it was so exciting. Okay, so anyway, that gets us through just some of these ideas. These are not comprehensive lists. These are all things that I have used. I've got my win ratio down there, which is kind of fun, which is, all right, what's the percentage of communications from CSMs that I get that are complaining versus saying, hey, I got a customer who's really excited about that. The win ratio will always be greater than 1, but it can change over time. And it really makes me happy when CSMs go silent, not because I want them to be silent, but because what it means is I'm not their problem and the product isn't their problem. All right, we have gone through everything. This is the last controversial game-changing rule, which is there are no exceptions to these 3 things. You don't make product investments, and not even little ones. Oh, we just need to slip this in. No, you never do it unless it solves one of the 3 things, the 3 jobs compellingly. All right. I rambled too long. I apologize. Let's go ahead and open this up for Q&A.
Yeah, no, thank you, Keoki, for all your insights today. This has been fantastic. Folks, please join me in chat and ask any questions that you have that are top of mind for Keoki to answer. While folks are kind of working their fingers there on their keyboards, Keoki, I have a question for you that's of interest to me. So you talked about in this session how there are so many different voices involved in sharing ideas about where to take things, right? You have your customers, you have folks in sales, you have impacts spanning to marketing and other folks involved in your product operating models. You also have different types of data and KPIs that you could potentially be tracking to vet these ideas. What role does a tool play in trying to bring this all together and make better decisions and enable these strategic pivots that you talked about and things like that?
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Would you mind unsharing the deck so we can see
Yeah,
each other?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So this is a great question. It's like, what is the purpose of a tool? Early on, like when you're in bootstrap mode, a tool can be helpful, but the bigger you get, the more a tool becomes helpful because you need to standardize and be able to see everything, and the whole company needs to be able to see what's going on. So a tool can help lift everything up. It can also make it clear when we're going off the rails and we're not following our own process, and we can hold each other accountable to it. We can also link the tool into our data like Salesforce, so we can quickly query and find out when somebody says, hey, this would be huge. And then I go, okay, well, let me see how many deals brought that up in Salesforce and how many dollars were associated with it. It's like, well, it turns out that one deal, oh, it was last week and it was your deal. Oh, okay, I get it. So the tools allow you to have information because there's this hierarchy of decision-making. At the very bottom, we have opinion. And we just, we have gut feel. Then we have anecdote, and anecdote trumps gut feel. Well, you think this, but I talked to a customer on a plane and they said this. Oh, Craig, you screwed me. You beat me with anecdote. And then it's like, well, I got Gartner. I have a Gartner study that says this market cares about this. Oh, you beat anecdote. Are any of those 3 actually really good for making decisions? No, they're not actually any very good. And then after that, we've got, well, we did some primary research. And then finally, it's like, no, we're so close to our customer and have so many inputs that a picture is emerging that we can actually see. And so the tool can normalize that. It can help you share your decision making. It can help you, everybody, to be able to see how you're doing, and it can help you bring in insights from the customers and have everybody be able to see those on equal ground so that we can debate fiercely and try to move at least a little bit away from our emotional decision making. So, and Dragon Boat can help you do that. Okay. Do we have a question?
Yeah, there is one question. Lucia asked, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. How do you handle managing expectations around how quickly it takes to see success or impact? It's a good one.
Yes, this is actually one of the reasons why this technique is so important, is in the planning process itself. We define, I really work with the product managers to make sure that as quickly as that we define KPIs that they can quickly, I usually shoot for during beta, being able to see something that will indicate, are we getting things right? And so sometimes it will be pickups during beta, clicks in beta, something that shows me, hey, this is getting people's interest. And if I'm not getting those beta level KPIs met, it's like, I'll be hitting up my CSMs, I'll be hitting up my marketing partners and going, okay, we need more press on this. Or I'll be calling individual customers and saying, all right, are we missing this? And so even before we launch, we are starting to see that. Okay, so that there is that pressure, but the more you do this, the more the organization will collectively exhale and start to trust you. Okay, next one.
That's great. So you brought up this concept of win-win ratio, and that one stuck out in my mind as well. I think it was related to NPS for your CSM teams, if I'm correct, but
No,
please correct me if I'm wrong.
I do like to do a CSM NPS,
Okay.
but the win-win is just looking at how frequently are we getting, like, if you're using something in Slack or some sort of tool like ServiceNow, where you're getting these requests or complaints and they're coming into your system. I like to just categorize those and go, okay, was that a win or a win? And I'm also it can be kind of soft. Sometimes I'll pull the product managers. It's like, okay, what's the temperature like? What's our water there? And so I have to kind of do that one by hand. If you have the
Okay.
right AI stuff, I can also ask the system, to do that for me. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
I think we have time for maybe one more question. Let's see, it's from Jacob. What are some tips when managing an outsourced product development team? Anything top of mind for you?
really actually focusing them on what you're trying to accomplish, making sure that they have high alignment with the goal. Outsourced product development teams tend to do what they're told, but greatness happens when people are creative in achieving the big goal. So we are asking you to do this in service to this goal. And when you feel like what we've asked you to do isn't in service to that goal, punch us in the nose and let us know so we can, you got to kind of wake them up and make them be active, because usually outsourced folks will just go, I did the job. And we need everybody to behave like winning is their job. Okay. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Just want to say thank you so much, Keoki, for your time and sharing all your insights and wisdom today. I'm going to share a few takeaway slides for everybody here to help us wrap things up. If you'd like to get in touch with Keoki and follow some of the great content he's putting out there on LinkedIn, there is access to his profile. If you're interested in this subject and kind of expanding it a little bit further to talk about the role that strategies and outcomes play, and ideas and insights play in the product operating model. We have a great session coming up next month. It's part of our CPO series that's hosted by Dragon Boat. It's with Vanessa Garber, who is on our Accelerate conference, if anybody attended those sessions not too long ago. But it should be a really great one. I would encourage you to register and attend. Lastly, I think um, much ado is needed for Dragon Boat, right? We wanted to share another quick word from our sponsor today. If you and your team are looking to operationalize your product operating model and want to potentially apply some of what you learned today, Keoki mentioned it before, but we would encourage you to check us out. So you can go to dragonboat.io or check out the links that Alyssa is going to share with you in chat today. Well, I think that's about it. Again, I want to thank Keoki for his time today. Thank you so much for a great session today. And thank you all for joining and attending and helping out in chat, asking questions and participating. If you want to keep the conversation going, I encourage you again to join us in our Slack community, which you should see an invite for in chat as well. And thank you all. It's been a pleasure. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care now.